question was, does it cost more to mint when you have code on chain or this kind of thing? And the different nuances of that. I've actually taken issue with this whole idea of on-chain NFTs on Cardano because nothing is really on-chain if you think about it. It's just text stored. Like if you're familiar with like Cardano trees or
Yeah.
Stellar Hood, like there's been some talk that putting JavaScript on the chain is more on-chain than what Unsigs did or what I did. But I just like the reason I think this is interesting is like none of these actually are executed on chain. So if you use Pool PM or something like that to look at your wallet, like what happens in the case of Unsigs? There is an IPFS link in the thing, which is basically an hashed output of what that code runs. And so you can just make like a web call, like go get me this file, right? If you don't trust it, you can always run the code yourself and verify that the output of the code is the file. But there's this idea that in programming of memoization or caching, like running your processor takes energy, right? And if the file exists on a hard disk, it's much cheaper just to load the file than to run the code to create the file again. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yep.
So we use basically IPFS to store the output, but the input is stored on chain, right? But what this kind of reveals is the code is not being executed by Cardano, right? And actually, the same thing is true in these JavaScript implementations, right? Which is why I kind of take personal issue with this idea that they're more on chain. They're still just text stored on chain. So to answer your question, no, it doesn't cost more to mint because it's just ASCII characters, right? That are minted into the thing. And what happens is Pool PM or whatever front end website you're looking at will look at that text, pull the text out, turn it back into like code and send it to your browser, right? Your Chrome tab. And then it's run locally in your Chrome tab. But that's not on chain. That's like literally on your machine or on your phone that you're looking at it. So the idea that any of these is more on chain than another is kind of really silly. Do you get what I'm saying? Right. I often say that they've traded archivalness for automation because in their case, the running of the code is kind of automated by the browser. In my case, the code is kind of pinned and said to like, there's actually an environment in the 000 unsig which says like, this is how you run this code. So that 50 years from now, I think it's very likely 100 years from now, it's very likely that that code will still be runnable, just using that simple thing. Whereas I think in these JavaScript versions, like you're probably going to have like a virtual machine with like Windows XP on it running this version of Chrome and an old version of Pool PM to go and grab the data. Do you get what I'm saying? Like there's all these dependencies that are pulled in
Extra little parts. Yeah.
that I think are not great. And so this is where, and this is why I thought it was good to record this bit. Not version 2, what I'm basically trying to do and why it's taking so long is to move the computation on chain. So it's not just like right now we're all storing code on chain, but it's running someplace else. And the reason not version 2 is taking so long is, and maybe include this in a future thing, not releasing with the rest of the bit, but I wanted to have this kind of recorded. It's the point is to have it actually be executed by Cardano, and that to me will make it like the next step in on-chain NFTs about really interrogating what it means to make art with a blockchain rather than putting art on a blockchain, right? Which is kind of my whole MO, right? Is how to do that. So I thought that was an interesting kind of nuance or way to slice the apple, but it doesn't cost any more because there's no execution. It's all just text. If in the next version it will, because there will be some kind of calculation that is actually happening by Cardano, and that will reduce one dependency for the thing. So